Surprise! Oh gosh, I can't believe I am finally talking about this. It has actually been a really long time, but it also doesn't feel like it because it went by so incredibly fast. But yes, I am pregnant. I'm pregnant. We're having a baby. And I am so excited to finally tell you guys. I can hardly believe it, but we're actually almost halfway through this pregnancy already. I am 18 weeks pregnant now, but it feels like 2 months. I guess maybe let me give you a recap of what happened, what it has been like. First of all, how did I find out? One day I woke up and I didn't feel too great. I was kind of nauseous. It was weird. Felt like maybe I had eaten something strange. And my best friend actually texted me that same morning saying she doesn't feel too great and she's a bit nauseous. We see each other all the time, so I thought, oh, maybe we just ate something bad, you know, the other day. The next day, it didn't go away. I was still feeling nauseous. And that's when I started thinking maybe there's more going on here. My husband and I, we weren't actively trying for a baby, but we did stop actively avoiding having a baby. So we decided to kind of let things go, see how long it would take, and if in a couple months nothing happened, we would, you know, take further measures, start calculating and everything. And I was fully expecting it to take at least a couple of months, but here we were. So I started calculating back to my last period, and the moment the nausea started would have been around the day of implantation, which is quite early to get symptoms, but also not completely impossible, I think. I had to wait to do a test, and for those 2 weeks that I was waiting, I was so sick. Like from one day to the next, I was just completely out of it. I was in bed for almost a week, I think, just unable to do anything. I was so tired, so nauseous. I found it really hard to eat and to keep food down. For those first few weeks, I was also, I wouldn't say, well, it's very weird. I've never experienced this before. I was throwing up, but nothing would come out. But it was different than just gagging. It was like actually dry heaving. So weird. Sorry if this is very gross. So I was throwing up actually multiple times a day sometimes, but most of the time, like 90% of the time, nothing would actually come out. It was just really uncomfortable and tiring, and it used up like all the energy I had for the day. So yeah, I would just go back into bed, and then after a while it got better. I did the test. I bought one of those early tests that you can do like a week earlier than a normal kind of at-home test. And at this point my breast had gotten tender. I was fairly sure that I was either pregnant or going through a very weird and scary disease. Kind of expecting a positive result at this point, but on this super early test that I did, like on the first day that I was even able to do the earliest of early tests, I did the test, and this line, bright red, just this bright red line. I just thought, wow, my body must be producing lots of these hormones. So that's when everything started. I had to find a midwife. I had to find a GP. I didn't have a GP in my new area yet. We just moved here fairly recently. I don't go to the doctor a lot, so we had to find a new one. While I was still in bed, I was just calling all of these like medical professionals. I would really love to explain to you guys at some point, not now, how like pregnancy and birth care works in the Netherlands, because it's pretty different from the USA, I think. Most important thing for me was to call a midwife, who is the primary caregiver during a woman's pregnancy in the Netherlands. And we right away scheduled a scan for around 7 or 8 weeks based on, again, when my last period started. just to check, you know, if there's anything there, if everything's looking well so far. A few weeks went by, we went to this appointment, and in such an early stage of pregnancy, they could only really see the baby through an internal ultrasound. So we went over there, we did that. This was kind of strange. So I was expecting to be like 7 weeks pregnant, and at that point, the baby is not even really like human shaped yet. It looks kind of like a dinosaur, honestly. So I went in fully expecting to see like this dinosaur, but as soon as this machine went in, you know, there was this baby on the screen, just baby, and then it disappeared again. I was looking at my husband like, did you see that full child in there? There was a full-blown baby in my belly. It was not a little like alien looking dinosaur thing. It was just full-on baby, and the first thing she said is, I don't think you're 7 weeks pregnant. And that's when I realized that my last period was not a period. It had been implantation bleeding, which just for some reason went on for a very long time. And I did notice that it was a different kind of period than I normally had, but I just chalked it down to traveling because I was traveling at the time. All of a sudden, I was almost through my first trimester. I went from thinking I had just gotten pregnant to being at the end of my first trimester, because at that point I was 11 weeks and a couple days pregnant, which was just insane. But it did explain why I was having so many symptoms so early on in the pregnancy. And we were shocked. My husband and I were just shocked. It took a while for us to process that. But on the other hand, I was so relieved, because being at the end of the first trimester means that you're much safer. Like, the pregnancy is much more likely to actually continue. So I was, very relieved to also just kind of have had my first trimester go by without really noticing. That fatigue that I had been experiencing for like 2 weeks went away fairly quickly again afterwards, and I was able to live life pretty normally again. I think I missed 1 or 2 uploads in that period, but after that I just went back to filming videos and everything and just living my life. The nausea did remain, as did the weird like dry heaving. I did experience that, like, even a little bit into my second trimester. I still get morning sickness sometimes, like I just feel a little nauseous in the morning, but I've learned how to deal with it fairly well. As long as I just keep eating all the time, I'm good. When I wake up, first thing I do is eat something, and then I just keep eating at regular intervals, and then I'm good. And it is getting much less now that I am further along in the pregnancy as well, which is fantastic, because that was not fun. Other than that, I have honestly had a really, really easy pregnancy so far. Not very many symptoms at all, honestly. Some days my breasts are really sore. They have grown a lot. That was one of the things I worried about. Maybe people might notice that in videos, but also I don't think that is something that people pay very much attention to. With the style of clothing that I wear, I was able to hide the bump fairly well, but those breasts, they're just there. Besides the morning sickness, really not that many symptoms. I have been very, very lucky so far. In my first trimester, when I was having that pretty bad morning sickness, at some point I would have this array of different types of crackers on my nightstand, so that I could literally eat a cracker first thing in the morning after I woke up. And I would wake my husband up every morning with just these nibbling sounds. Also, in that time period, I would sometimes throw up when I opened the fridge, which is so weird. Just something about the fridge would trigger that, which was annoying. My husband had to cook every day, make all my food, because I just couldn't open the fridge. At a certain point I got tired of it, and I started opening the fridge with my arm over my nose and mouth like that, so that I wouldn't smell it, and just open it real quick, grab what I needed, and close it again. So weird. I don't know what that was, but that was pretty funny and annoying. Cravings is something you always hear a lot about. I didn't experience many cravings, or not very specific ones. What would happen sometimes is I would come across a food somewhere online, like in a video or something, and suddenly really crave that specific food. But I don't think I've ever had like spontaneous cravings. It was usually when I would see like this quick like cooking reel or something, and I'd be like, I need that right now. They haven't been very strange things either. I think maybe the weirdest thing was deviled eggs. I have been on a predominantly vegan, plant-based diet for years now, and suddenly I just really, really, really wanted some deviled eggs. But that's honestly the oddest thing. For the most part, they were pretty regular things. Donuts. I had one day I ate a whole box of donuts. For the most part, I mostly had food aversions, things that I just really did not want to eat anymore. Mock meats. couldn't stand them, didn't want them anywhere near me, couldn't smell them. The smell of them cooking mock meat was just so disgusting to me. I couldn't eat those anymore. So we had to eat lots of legumes, tofu, things like that. What else? Pepper, black pepper, for some reason, is such an overwhelming flavor to me, and it still is. That started in the first trimester as well. When there is black pepper in a dish, it's all I can taste. I imagine this is what it must be like for people who don't like coriander. When there's coriander in something, it's like it's such an overwhelming flavor and it's all you can taste. Black pepper. Right now I don't really have many aversions anymore aside from this weird pepper thing, but in the first trimester, it would kind of change from day to day. Sometimes I would even make myself something and then realize that I can't eat it. For a while there, I just wanted really bland flavors, like cooked potatoes, honestly, were the best thing. Soft, starchy foods. Fries would have been good. Soft, starchy, and fatty, like greasy. But then as I went into my second trimester, all of that subsided, and now I just eat my normal diet again, which is fantastic because I love food so much. And I didn't enjoy not liking food anymore. So yeah, we're now well into the second trimester. Anatomy scan is actually later this week, now that I'm filming this. And that is when we find out the gender of the baby. We are going to find out, like we are going to have them tell us. I'm not sure if and when I will share that with you guys. I might. Probably I will, just because I feel like it's going to be hard to hide once you know yourself. Maybe we'll keep it to ourselves for a little bit there. But yeah, we are finding out the gender very, very, very soon. And this is also kind of the last scan where they check if everything is all right with the baby. So far, everything has been. We've had 2 scans so far. We had the 13-week scan, which is like kind of like an early anatomy scan. Everything was great on that one, which is fantastic. I'm really, really excited to see the baby. It's so weird to me. I haven't felt the baby yet. So seeing it on the scan is just such a surreal experience. Like I can hardly believe that this is actually inside my body. But it shouldn't be too long now before I do start to feel some kicks. The bump is there. I don't know if you noticed, but I had to kind of rush finishing my raincoat. The last episode, I did way too much. I did way more than I was actually capable of doing in one episode, but I had to finish that coat because I can barely close it. I could at that point barely close it anymore. But yeah, this is where we're at right now. A pretty sizable bump, I think. I haven't grown a lot yet, but you can definitely tell I'm pregnant. I definitely wouldn't have been able to hide it for much longer. Not that I want to either. I mean, I feel like now is a good time to share this. My clothes are starting to no longer fit, or at least some of them. I am very lucky. I have always been a big bloater, so the vast majority of my clothes are made to kind of have a bit of room in that area and to kind of grow with a growing belly. To a certain degree, of course. Not to this extent. I've never been this big before, so I will definitely need to start making myself some pregnancy clothes very soon, as the things in my wardrobe that I can still wear are starting to dwindle a little bit. So I'm really excited to get started on that. Yeah, while we're on that topic, my channel, what's gonna happen here? I would like to continue making videos the way I always have. I'm not planning on changing the type of content that I make. I'm definitely not planning on doing motherhood content. And once the baby is here, we have decided to keep the baby off the internet. My channel will still be the channel it has always been. I might throw in a little bit of, you know, like pregnancy content here and there. Of course, I will need to sew myself a wardrobe. We're gonna decorate the nursery soon. There's gonna be some house updates happening, so I would love to share that. Just the type of stuff I've always been sharing. Just now, obviously, this is something that's happening in my life, so I would love to share a little bit about that as well. But I think I'm gonna keep the majority of the like pregnancy updates maybe over on Instagram, because that's where I tend to share more personal stuff anyway, and keep my YouTube content largely the same as it was before. So I guess that's kind of what you can expect from me in the upcoming month. This is a huge thing that's happening in my life right now, and I don't fully know yet what my experience will be with this, how much of it I will want to share, especially once the baby is born. My life's going to be completely different, at least for a little while there. So yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll see what happens. What I would like to do though is do a Q&A soon about the pregnancy so far. Any questions that you have, maybe something specific. I could talk a little bit about prenatal and birth care in the Netherlands. So if you have any questions for that, for my next tea time, a pregnancy related tea time, be sure to drop them here. I will also put one of those stickers up on Instagram, but I know not everyone uses Instagram, so you can drop a question in the comments section below, and I will go through and answer those for you in an upcoming tea time video. I have a feeling I sound very nasally in this. Sorry about that. Also, sorry for disappearing again off of YouTube for 2 weeks. It didn't have anything to do with the pregnancy. We got hit with COVID so hard. I think maybe I have never been this sick in my entire life. It was just crazy. You're more susceptible to infections when you're pregnant, and they also tend to be a little bit heavier. Finally back now, but still, my nose is stuffed. So sorry if I sound nasally in this. Anyway, I was also saying, yes, please drop any questions you have down below. I think that's gonna be it for this video. I still can't believe I'm saying it out loud now. We've kept it discreet for so long now that it feels weird to kind of just share it, but it's time, it's okay, I'm very happy. Thank you for being here, guys. I'm excited about what's to come. Thank you for watching this little very, very special announcement. And I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye, guys.